It's a service provided by Google, or Google Tag Managers.
Yeah.
And it lets you be able to control when your tracking code fires,
Yeah.
what tracking code fires, and be able to see, even in cases like who did what and when.
Welcome back to another episode of More Than Marketing. I'm your host, Arsham Mirshah, and I am joined today with Derek, with Derek Cavaliero. Derek is, I'm not one for titles, but Senior Director of Engineering, let's say. The point is he's been doing this well. He's a web developer, but what's unique about him is that, well, first and foremost, I have a soft spot in my heart for you.
Oh.
I think you know that already. Because he's our most tenured team member here at Web Mechanics. He's been with us for 8 years. For context, we've been in business for almost 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So less than 10, him more than 8. So it's, and what that means for his skill set is that, at one point he was the only developer outside of me at Web Mechanics. So that means like all the landing page, all the sites that we did, all the tracking, which we're going to talk about tracking today, all that went through Derek. So not only did he get, a PhD in
PhD. You're too kind.
Street PhD, not a visual.
Don't fact check that one.
Don't fact check that. Right. Well done. From not only does he have his, not Duquesne. I was saying his PhD in web development, but also, he's been seeing the intersection of web development and web marketing. Right. So that's very unique because I would say like the average web developer out there is just that, a web developer, and that's fine. It's all well and good, a lot of respect. But when you have marketers who are trying to gather data, fire tags, we'll talk about that in a second. You need to understand. I think web developers, would you say is true, that they need to understand how their work impacts the marketing.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that there's back 8 years ago, the idea of MarTech, if you will, or marketing tech was kind of like not a thing. There were silos of okay, here's developers and here's marketing professionals, and you have to interact with each other, but that's about all you have. So it's grown over the years. I mean, obviously, there's so many tools out there that you can't even put them on one sheet of paper and 10-point font.
Right, not possible.
Right. So yeah, it's been a unique experience being able to learn all that stuff, and I learned most of the tracking stuff from this guy here. He's the best.
Take a high five for that.
So he taught me all the fundamentals that I needed to know, and we feed off each other. So
I personally think that intersection, because that's me too, right? I'm a comp sci, but then now I'm in this marketing field. So you and I are very much alike, kind of in that sense that we know how development impacts marketing. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about something that's near and dear, I know, to both of our hearts, definitely, undoubtedly yours, is and it's because it's made your life a lot easier, better, whatever. We'll talk about the benefits, and that is Google Tag Manager, or Tag Managers
of any flavor.
Of any flavor, yeah. We'll talk about Google because soft spot in our hearts for Google, right?
And it's free. It's always a good thing.
That's yes, sir. Now, but first and foremost, because I'm not sure exactly who's listening to this. Everyone, y'all might know what a tag is. You might not. Let's answer that first. What is a tag?
Sure. So a tag, I guess, is the best way to describe it is you probably heard the term pixel or tracking code or tag. Those are kind of all synonymous words for the same thing. And really what that comes down to is a piece of JavaScript or some type of pixel, like an image, that you put on your site for gathering data or tracking campaign success of that nature.
Right.
So tag is just the word that Google decided to use to describe all of that kind of cloud of things that you may be trying to implement on your site. And
pixel, I think pixel is going to be the thing you hear.
Yeah, and a tag, and that's a good point. A tag isn't something that implements functionality. It's something that implements a marketing tracking type of thing. You shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff in there, and we'll get to that later, maybe in some pros and cons kind of thing.
So I think a tag is like a pixel, and they've all seen it. They've all seen hey, we want to use this new tool. I want to use Hotjar, right? And then Hotjar comes out and says, okay, great, install this tag on your site, and they give you instructions how to do that. They even let you send that to a developer, right? Sometimes, right? So that's a tag. It's all the tools have them. Anything that's tracking your site or doing split testing or stuff like that.
Gathering heat map data, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, Google Analytics, the most simple
one.
one. Google Analytics,
the most important one probably.
The most important one. When they give you that thing, they say put this on your site. Right. That's a tag.
Yep.
It's or a pixel, whatever. Yep. So, okay, great. So we know what a tag is. Then, what's a tag manager?
Right. So I mean, it sounds pretty self-explanatory,
Just what
right?
It sounds like,
right?
It manages your tags. There you go.
Drop mic.
And we're done.
So I guess the best way to describe it is it gives you a graphical user interface to maintain and manage and implement these pieces of tracking code all over your site. While before,
what was alternative?
You just mentioned it a few moments ago. It was either you knew enough about your website where you could go into the template files and do the code installation by yourself manually, and in some cases even understand the JavaScript modifications that would need to be made to do it.
Right.
So probably a marketer wearing many hats, part developer, part marketer, kind of I guess what I kind of am.
Right.
But the downside to that is that when you're doing that over and over and over again, and you have tons and tons of tools, it gets to be really, really daunting to go in there and have to maintain and make sure you keep track of everything that's on there, and then also debugging and stuff like that. So
so it used to be that it was hey, install this tag, and you'd have to go to your website's template files and put that JavaScript in the template file. Usually before the head HTML closes or right after the body opens. You've all seen this. When you add a new tag, and that's not. While it works, it's not the most. It's not the cleanest way to install things, and true to the name, Tag Manager, it becomes a nightmare to manage.
Right.
Especially when you have 10 or more tags.
Yeah, and when you have a complex business that has complex advertising campaigns, it just gets more and more complicated. So that's really what a tag manager is. It's a service provided by Google. Or Google Tag Managers, and it lets you be able to control when your tracking code fires, what tracking code fires, and be able to see even in cases who did what and when, and there's all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about the benefits of Tag Manager, right? Because hey, why do I need Tag Manager when I know how to get to my template file? I'll go to whatever WordPress editor, FTP, or I'll do something, right? And I'll just. Or some plugins even have insert your code here, right? So, but let's talk about some benefits of Tag Manager. Why should I use Tag Manager and not install it directly?
Sure. So the way this Tag Manager works is instead of having all these little pieces of tracking code that you keep installing in template, header, and footer files wherever you may need to put them, it's one piece of code that you then remove all of your old tags from being hard-coded into those templates. You hard-code one container tag, they call it.
Container. Call it a container, right.
And then that container manages the injection of all of these other tracking tools and tags and pixels and what have you, so that you don't have to worry about maintaining all of those inside template files, because it can be daunting, especially if you need to remove one and maybe you don't have direct access to those files. Maybe you have to go in and talk to an IT team, or you have to talk to an internal development team. They have to get it built into their workflow, and that can take time.
Yeah.
Whereas this gives you more control for the marketing initiatives that you probably have 2 days to turn around. And a lot of times developers will be like, I don't have time to do that.
Yeah, because that's a good point. That's a good point, because it used to be, hey, I got this tag, I need to install it in my site, and you put it into the queue of the IT team or the development team. They got other things going on, right? So now, and then meanwhile, you're sitting there waiting. You, the marketer, are sitting there waiting 2-3 weeks. Your tag's not installed. You're not collecting data. You're not able to run split tests, et cetera, et cetera. So with Tag Manager, you install it one time, and that becomes kind of a portal. They call it a container, or I call it a portal.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wormhole into your site. I like to think of it as a weird, just tunnel that you control, and you control the traffic and the way that things get fed into it.
Exactly, yeah. Now, that makes me think, is it safe? The answer is yes, unless someone gets access to your Tag Manager. Just the same way if someone were to get access to
the FTP files.
The FTP, or even the admin to your content management system, right?
Yeah, like Spider-Man said, or Spider-Man, what was it? Peter Parker's like Dad said, or Uncle, with great power comes great responsibility.
That's what it is.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not a comic guy.
I don't know who said it either, but that's very true.
Right, I mean, it goes the same way everywhere. And if you give marketing like a marketing team control over adding JavaScript to a site, there's always a chance that they could implement something that they shouldn't. Right. Now, that comes down to having someone control and manage like what goes on and what goes off. So maybe having a developer review some of the stuff that goes into production, and that's one of the benefits, to get on your point.
Yeah, that's another benefit. I would agree with that.
It's the ability to provide certain roles and capabilities to users to access this container. So you can say, hey, the XYZ user, let's say John Smith, because that's the most famous example user ever. John Smith can add tags, but they can't publish them. But they can submit them for review. Right. And then you can create an approval queue even if you want to go that far, so that you can kind of have a workflow for how things are added, so that there's not 5 or 6 people from your marketing team adding tags in. And publishing stuff all the time. So benefit number one, just to backtrack, benefit number one is, things can be done faster, you're more nimble, both for adding tags and removing tags. I also think, to go along with that benefit, that you can also control where the tags fire. So for instance, if you are, let's say you're doing heat mapping, right? And you only want to run heat mapping on, 1 or 2 pages. Maybe your pricing page, you want to run a heat map on that, or user recording. You don't need to fire the JavaScript, for Hotjar or Lucky Orange or whatever heat mapping tool, KISS measure you're using. You don't have to fire it on all the pages of your site. You just want to fire it on that one page, right? So with Tag Manager, it's very easy to do that. Whereas if you were to do that through your template files, it would, presumably and potentially and most likely actually be more difficult to implement it on just one page. Yeah, correct. Because then you actually do need to get a developer, especially if you have to write those conditional cases where, like, if this page is this URL, do this.
Right. Or I've seen it where they just go into the content management system, go into the text view, and they just drop the JavaScript there, and it's just like, man, now you're
really
blocked.
Complicated.
Yeah, now you got code everywhere, right? You got render blocking JavaScript. I don't even want to get into the details of page speed at this point. All right, so that's benefit one. Benefit two is I think you were saying like permissioning and preview. Like
there's built-in debugging and error handling. Yep. And even going back to like being able to put JavaScript in, if you try to publish like a tag and it has a JavaScript error that would throw an error inside the JavaScript console, it actually won't let you publish it.
There you go.
So it's actually, Google's kind of on top of that to make sure you're not doing things that are completely broken.
I did not know that.
So it's actually really cool.
I learned something. I like that.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long it's been there. It's got to be within the past year.
Sure,
that they've been doing it,
whatever. That's awesome.
That's a great thing.
Thank you, Google. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Good looking out. That's good. That's really good.
That's a huge benefit, and that debugging panel can help people that aren't technical be able to see, like, okay, this tag did not fire when I expected it to.
Yeah, so Derek, that's good. So now back to John Smith. We got John Smith out there. He doesn't have published permissions. He only has I don't know what the permission on it. He can add tags. He can preview to see if his tag that he added is working. So now he can go and he, the marketer, he, the whomever, can go figure that out, and they have a user interface to do that preview to see if the tag worked. And then still doesn't have published, still can't publish to the site, but now it's in the workflow, and they say, hey, I checked it, it does work. Please just make sure, whomever's going to publish it, that your QA is good.
Yeah, and that's like kind of like point 1A and point 1B. Like there's that built-in debugging and error handling, and then there's also a built-in version control system. So if you need to revert, it's a click of a button away, and you can revert to a previous version from 3 months ago, 2 days ago. You can go forward in time and backward in time. It's
version control.
Yeah.
So now we can see who messed it up.
Point the blame game. Not really. That's not what the
no
more
more blame game. It's very cut and dry.
But that's it. Unless someone's using something they shouldn't, but or logged into something they shouldn't.
I'm using your login.
Right.
Always Derek's fault. Always Derek's fault.
Right. And it has the ability, and there's like great things about it. There's the ability to like leave notes inside certain tags about what they're for, what campaigns they're for.
Right.
You can leave notes and versions to tell people like what this version is doing or changing or modifying.
What are you trying to accomplish?
You can see each and every tag and trigger, and there's even other more advanced stuff that are very helpful for developers inside there that you can see change over time inside there. So that's a huge benefit because most of the time you hard code these tags in, and then there's no way to tell like if a tag gets removed randomly or sporadically.
Who did it, when they do it, where
maybe
they do
the site
why.
had to be reverted from a backup from 3 months ago because there was a hosting issue and then the files were corrupt.
Right.
But your IT team reverts it, and then they don't think about the tracking, but now your tracking's gone, and now you can't tell if your AdWords campaigns can
It's a good
converted.
point.
So there's all kinds of benefits for having one centralized thing.
And there's another benefit that you told me about that like I wouldn't have thought of off the top of my head, and that is if Tag Manager can be kind of a central place where your data's coming in. So imagine you want to track clicks of a particular button or form fills or e-commerce, someone purchased or added to cart. If you're not using Tag Manager and you want to send that data to Google Analytics, you want to send that data to Hotjar, you want to send that data to Facebook because maybe you want to do campaign tracking, conversion tracking, or you want to build audiences out of analytics or audiences out of Facebook, right? So if you're not using Tag Manager, now you have to go write all this custom JavaScript for analytics, and you have to write the custom JavaScript for Facebook and the custom JavaScript for Hotjar. Insert your platform here, right?
And hope you're typing all in the same case and in the same format and all that stuff.
Right,
and
right. Case, format, right? So, and you're using the same words,
Yeah, like consistency so that you're not looking at one system and seeing like, okay, I tracked it in this way.
We solve that with Tag Manager.
Yeah, and admittedly, Tag Manager is a very great tool for people that do not know the technical wherewithal of like everything that's happening behind the scenes, but it's also a fantastic tool for people that need for power users like myself and other developers, who need to implement very specific and advanced tracking implementations to have full control over the data and how it flows through all the different tags.
Right.
So to your point, you can say, okay, anytime an event, we'll just say an event is sent to Google Analytics, we can say, okay, what other platforms am I using that also accept like an event type of hit or like some type of like
Facebook
data collection?
For sure.
Facebook for sure.
Right on.
Bing is another one.
Bing for sure. Yeah.
There's countless. They all kind of do the same thing. Mixpanel does it for sure.
Yeah, Mixpanel.
So being able to take that and say, okay, we already have this data inside our data model inside I said analytics, and that's an important thing to touch on too. The difference between analytics and Tag Manager because they are not the same thing.
Right.
We can touch on that in a second, but. Being able to take that and then just say, okay, here's one event. Let's send it to 3 different places in the same, well, 2 because I don't have 3 hands, but there you go. Send it in 3 different places with the same formatting and everything like that is incredibly powerful because it makes reporting a heck of a lot easier cross-platform.
Because now you have consistency.
Right.
And you know that when some action is taken on your website, it's not only going to analytics, it's going to other platforms that you need it to go to.
Yeah, and it also can clean up your Tag Manager container a considerable amount if you have a lot of different networks that you're running on and stuff like that.
Right. And now that's kind of you got to have your implementation set up correctly for that. And one thing that I know you've done is we now have here what we call the GTM Google Tag Manager boilerplate.
Yeah, boilerplate base. We haven't really come up with like a name. We call it like GTM Base Container. Boilerplate works.
Yeah, foundation, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter.
Yep.
But what's the benefit of that? Or like, can we give that out?
Yeah, I mean, we can, and that's one cool feature that I actually didn't talk about here is you have the ability, since this is all hosted inside Google's cloud, it's hosted up on the server that Google controls. You have the ability to export your configuration settings and then re-import it into another container, however much you choose. And remember, containers are just the one piece of tracking code that you have that has a unique ID that you install on a site. So what we can do is, and what we do is,
he said it.
That one. Yeah,
you heard him.
It here first.
He said it here.
Probably the millionth time, actually. But what you can do is you take the export of a container and then you can re-import it and then use that as like a boilerplate or like a base container. So what we have is like a bare bones, not bare bones.
So hold on. What do we have out of the box, right? So we have. I know we have like send event tracking.
Yeah, we do stuff like there's things that you find yourself, and this comes just from working on countless amounts of like marketing
tracking
initiatives.
Buttons.
Yeah, tracking like button clicks, and a lot of the times that's a little. Like, I try to go higher level than that because buttons always have, like, a different means of the way you need to be tracked. But things like clicks on email address links, like mail to links, phone numbers, click to call, being able to track, like, how many people are clicking on a particular phone number on a page. You can do there's built-in YouTube video watch tags and triggers and stuff
so you can
now.
track how long people are.
You can see percentage-based like tracking, so like you can see like people pausing, playing, fast forwarding, backward, all that kind of stuff through YouTube videos. So if you do a lot of video content, it's fantastic because doing that kind of tracking by yourself is daunting. Cause
you have all this out of the box. All this in the boilerplate.
Yeah, and that's just Google stuff that I'm talking about. There's also we have
Vimeo.
There is a Vimeo tag in there. To do similar stuff with Vimeo tracking for Vimeo videos compared to YouTube. And then we also have like Bing ads. We don't have it enabled by default in there, but it's easy to turn on and off with the click of a button. We have Facebook tracking pixels. We have
because that's not out of the box.
Google Analytics, obviously, the huge one that's like probably the most important.
Yeah. So that on that note, Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics, not the same thing. Yeah. If you have Tag Manager installed, that does not mean by default that you have Analytics installed.
Or anything installed.
If you put the container on, Tag Manager container, nothing's in there. You gotta, publish some tags.
Yep.
But Derek, we're running out of time, so let's do this. We'll put in the link or in the description or something. Or you can just Google Web Mechanics boilerplate Google Tag Manager.
Something like that.
That's what we're going to call it. That's what the landing page will be optimized for. So the listeners can find that. The viewers can see it in the description.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you for your time, first and foremost, because this is, again, important stuff. Just like marketing and sales sometimes butt heads, I've seen marketing and development teams butt heads, right?
Yeah.
But we all got to work together.
Right. We all have different priorities, and we understand that like everyone's job's equally important.
Right.
It's just hard to agree on that common ground when there's something that needs to be bumped up in someone's priority list when they're already busy with whatever going on. And this aims to solve a lot of that.
Exactly. And so this Google Tag Manager tool sits between development and marketing or IT, if you want to call it, depending on your organization, and marketing, and helps, bring those teams together in kind of a common ground, and just make things easier, make things faster, can make your site load faster in some cases as well. And it's just a tool that's near and dear to our hearts, so we figured we'd share it with you out there. And, you can ask us for the boilerplate. Happy to give it to you. Happy to help with Google Tag Manager, powerful tool for marketers, but also for power developers and custom tracking scenarios.
Yes, definitely.
So, cool. Derek, thanks again for your time.
No problem.
Cheers, all y'all out there. Hope this was helpful. Take care.
Take care.